Hey, everyone, and welcome back to the Deep Dive. You know, we always love hearing from you guys and getting those interesting articles and reports. And recently, we've gotten a bunch of stuff about what happens after we click Buy Now, you know, the whole world of online shopping returns.
Yeah.
And today we're going to do a deep dive into a really specific part of that. It's called bracketing.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to try to figure out why so many people online are ordering like the same thing in multiple sizes. What's the deal with that? What happens afterward? Are there solutions?
Right.
You know, what can we do? So our mission today is to unpack all the data, look at some really interesting research, including an analysis of 1 million online returns. We're going deep.
Wow.
And right away, you know, when I was looking at all this material, one number just jumped out at me. The return rates for online fashion, get this, can be as high as 30 to 40%.
Yeah, it's wild.
It's crazy. Think about that compared to when we shop in actual stores. I mean, that's only like 8 to 10%.
Right.
So clearly, something different is going on here. But you know, we don't want to just focus on the numbers themselves. We want to get into the why. Why is this happening? What does this mean for online shopping, you know, down the line?
Yeah.
So to kick things off, let's get specific. When we say bracketing in online shopping, what are we actually talking about?
So bracketing, in a nutshell, is when a customer orders, you know, the same thing, maybe a dress, a pair of jeans, whatever, in multiple sizes.
Right.
With the intention of sending back what doesn't fit.
Right.
And this is really a direct response to the fact that you can't try things online, right?
Yeah.
And people don't totally trust those size charts.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to replicate that fitting room experience in their own home.
Exactly. Exactly.
So the material also mentioned this term haul culture. Is that the same as bracketing?
Yeah.
Or is there like a key difference between the two?
That's a really great question.
Thanks.
So while both of them definitely lead to more returns, the reasons behind them are totally different.
Yeah.
So bracketing, like we were talking about, it's all about that uncertainty about the fit.
Right.
The shopper just wants to get the right size. Haul culture, that's different.
Okay.
That's like driven by social media, you know? They want to show off a big haul, or maybe they just want to try a bunch of styles.
Right.
And they fully intend to send back a bunch of it.
For different reasons.
Yeah, maybe it doesn't fit, maybe they don't like the color, whatever.
Okay. So it sounds like haul culture might be what we see in the headlines more, but bracketing is the bigger issue, like overall. Just more people doing it.
Yeah, I think that's right. Bracketing is way more common across all kinds of shoppers.
Yep.
You know, like something like 30% of shoppers say they've done it because they just weren't sure about the size.
Right.
And when you look at different age groups, the numbers are crazy.
Really?
This study by Woke Waves found that 69% of Gen Z, those are the young folks,
Oh, wow.
they admit to over-ordering like this, but only 16% of baby boomers do it.
Interesting. That's a huge difference.
Huge difference.
Yeah. It makes you wonder if it's like they just shop differently online or is there something else going on there? Right. And we were talking about those overall return rates before 30, 40% for fashion, like way higher than those single digits in physical stores.
Right, right.
It's kind of a big problem, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, the average rate for online clothes is around 24.4%, according to Corsair Research and Social. But there's some really interesting details here.
Okay.
Prime AI, they looked at 1 million returns to get like a super close look at the data.
1 million.
Yeah, 1 million. They found that bracketing rates at these big multi-brand stores, you know the ones,
Yeah.
those range from 15% all the way up to 40%.
Wow.
But the single brand stores, the ones that just sell their own stuff, they have much lower rates, like 3 to 10%.
That makes sense, right? If you stick to one brand, you kind of get to know their sizing.
Exactly.
So are there certain clothes that are more susceptible to bracketing than others?
Yeah, dresses and bottoms.
Okay, yeah.
Those are tricky, right? They have to fit just right.
Right.
And the sizing can change a lot depending on the style, the brand.
Yeah, you never know. Okay, so we've established that bracketing is a big deal, right? And it seems like a lot of it comes down to just not being sure about the size when you're buying online.
Right.
Now, the report also talks about AI. It says, AI-driven size recommendations can make a real difference. How much of a difference are we talking?
A huge difference, actually.
Really?
Prime AI found that shoppers who use, you know, those size finder tools before they buy, they bracket 80% less.
80%.
That's massive. It means getting the size right from the start is super important.
Right.
And it's not just about saving money on shipping back all those returns.
Right.
It's about changing the whole experience. So it's not this guessing game.
Right, right.
You know, you can be confident you're getting the right size from the get-go.
80% less, that's huge. Really shows how not knowing the size is the core of the issue. Okay, so let's talk about these so-called serial returners. Who are they? And how do they play into this whole bracketing thing?
So serial returners, they're the people who order tons of stuff and then return almost all of it.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, they might bracket too, order multiple sizes, but they're doing more than that. They're ordering all the styles, all the colors.
Just see what they look like.
Exactly. Their house is like one giant dressing room.
Right. So for them, it's not about just figuring out the size. It's a totally different way of shopping online.
Exactly. And this can be really expensive for the stores.
Yeah, I bet.
Prime AI looked at one store's data over 2 years, and they found that only 95 shoppers, 95 people,
Wow,
were responsible for over 5% of all the refunds. But they only made up less than 1% of the total sales.
Wow. So a tiny group of people causing a lot of the costs.
Exactly.
But, I mean, they're not trying to be difficult, right?
Sure.
They just shop differently, and it makes it hard for the stores to keep up.
Yeah. It's a tough situation.
So what are stores doing about it?
Well, this particular store, they started charging return fees, but only for these high-volume returners.
Okay.
So they're trying to discourage it without punishing the regular shoppers.
Yeah, I get it. So we've talked about the costs for the stores, but what about the bigger picture? What's the overall impact of all these returns, all this bracketing?
It's a big impact, honestly.
Yeah.
Remember, the average return rate online is about 24%, but for some stuff, like dresses in the US and Europe, it can be over 50%.
Over half.
It's crazy compared to that 8-10% in stores. In the UK alone, serial returners send back over £6 billion worth of stuff every year. That's almost a quarter of all the returns.
Yeah.
And then there's the environmental side of things.
Wow.
All that shipping back and forth, the packaging, and sometimes the stuff can't even be resold and ends up in the trash. It's bad for the environment.
So it costs the stores money, it hurts the planet, and it can be a hassle for everyone involved.
Yeah, basically.
So the report also mentioned these buy now, pay later services, BNPL. How are they connected to all of this?
Well, BNPL kind of makes bracketing easier, right? Because you don't have to pay for everything up front.
Right.
So people feel like they can order a bunch of sizes and just send back what doesn't work.
Why not? I don't have to pay for it now.
Exactly. It's like a big try before you buy event.
Yeah, I get it.
And there's research showing that BNPL users are actually more likely to fall behind on payments, which might mean they're not always thinking through their purchases. And Prime AI's data shows that return rates are going up among BNPL shoppers. So there's definitely a connection there.
So BNPL can be good for sales, but might be contributing to more returns.
Yeah, it's something for stores to think about.
Okay, so we know online sizing is tricky. What are some of the newer solutions that go beyond those basic size charts? I mean, the report talked about statistical sizing and predictive sizing. What's the difference?
So the old school online size tools, they use something called statistical sizing.
Okay.
It's basically looking at past purchases and return rates to guess what size you might need.
Okay.
It's a starting point, but it's pretty general.
Yeah.
It doesn't consider different body shapes or the way different fabrics fit or what customers actually prefer. It's just averages.
Right, and everyone's different.
Yeah.
And a size medium at one store can be totally different at another.
Exactly. So predictive AI sizing is way more advanced.
Okay.
Like Prime AI's technology, it looks at millions of data points. Things like how stretchy a fabric is, how different dyes can change the fit, even how sizing is different in different places.
Wow, right.
Yeah. So it can give much better personalized recommendations. It's not about averages anymore. It's about each specific garment and each shopper's preferences.
That's amazing. So how does this predictive AI size finder actually work? What do you have to tell it?
Usually you put in your height, weight, age, and how you like your clothes to fit, snug, loose, whatever.
Okay.
And you don't have to upload photos or measure yourself, which is a pain.
Right.
Then based on all this data, it gives you a size recommendation.
Okay.
But it goes even deeper than that. It considers those weird brand sizing quirks, how different fabrics will drape, even tiny variations from the dye or the finishing. It's really looking at each item individually.
So it's like super detailed. And it's learning from all this data to make predictions. Is that like machine learning or something?
Exactly. It's machine learning.
Cool. So it's getting down to the specifics of the product and the customer. And how do stores actually use this?
It's designed to work with all the big online store platforms like Shopify, Magento, and Salesforce.
Okay.
And it can even be used with custom-built ones. It uses APIs, which are like digital connectors,
Yeah.
so stores can add it in without having to redo their whole website.
And what kind of results are they seeing?
Prime AI says stores using their size finder are seeing about a 30% reduction in size-related returns.
Wow.
That's huge for their profits.
Right.
And it helps the environment because there's less stuff being shipped back and forth.
Right.
Plus, shoppers are happier because they're getting the right size the first time, and they're more likely to buy again.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And they even have examples like O'Neill, Playful Promises, Aristocracy. They've all seen big improvements, and they're building trust with their customers.
So a 30% drop in returns just from getting the sizing right. That's incredible. The report also mentioned a study by McKinsey about AI and personalization in general. What did they find?
McKinsey found that stores using AI to personalize the shopping experience, things like recommendations and fit advice, saw happier customers and could reduce returns by up to 20%.
Yeah.
But what's really interesting is that Prime AI is reporting an average of 28% reduction specifically for size-related returns.
Wow, so even better than the average.
Yeah. It shows how important sizing is to the whole experience.
It makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Getting the right fit is like the most important thing when you're buying clothes online.
Absolutely.
And it all comes back to that idea that people want a more personalized experience when they shop online.
Exactly. McKinsey found that 80% of people are more likely to buy from a brand that offers that kind of personal touch.
Right. And knowing you're getting the right size is a huge part of that.
Exactly.
We've also seen those virtual try-on things popping up. How do they compare? Do they help with returns too?
They do. Virtual try-on can help people see how clothes might look on them.
Right.
And some studies show they can cut returns by about 25%.
Okay.
So they're good for helping with decisions, but predictive AI sizing is different.
Okay.
It's about picking the right size from the start, so you might not even need the virtual try-on.
Right.
They can both be useful, just in different ways.
So to wrap this all up, it seems like bracketing is a real problem for online stores, and it all comes down to not being sure about the size.
Absolutely.
We talked about how common it is, why people do it mostly that fit uncertainty, not just wanting to try on a bunch of stuff.
Right.
And we saw how much it costs the stores and how it impacts the environment. Plus, we even talked about how these BNPL services might be adding to the problem without meaning to.
Yeah.
But the good news is that these new AI solutions, like predictive sizing, are a really promising way to fix it.
Definitely.
It's all about using data and machine learning to give better size recommendations, which means fewer returns, happier shoppers, and a more sustainable way to shop online.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
This has been a really fascinating look at the whole world of online returns and bracketing.
Yeah.
It really makes you think about how AI and all this data can change the way we shop online. Imagine, ordering clothes and being basically guaranteed they'll fit when they arrive. No more bracketing.
I like it.
It makes you wonder, what other parts of online shopping can AI improve? What else can we make easier and more efficient?
Yeah, good question.
Lots to think about right now. And we'll definitely keep digging into these topics in future deep dives. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Thank you.